question about classical tradition?
Yeah, in the Advaita Vedanta tradition with Ramana Maharshi and teachers that promote self-inquiry. Could you speak about that and also about...
Well, I think self-inquiry is not really self-inquiry. I think as Ramana may have used it, he had a capital S in his teachings, which meant inquiring into the nature of reality, so not your ego, particularly. So it's definitely useful. In the beginning, it's what everybody has to do. You have to confront your stuff. So self-inquiry is really like looking at the monkey in the mirror, in a sense, and see where you stand and what it is, and maybe where you come from. So self-inquiry is a good step on the path. Everyone has to engage in it to whatever degree they're talking about any kind of enlightenment process relative or over against their karmic suffering. Everybody's got it. See? And Ramana had his own flavor of it. See? As we mentioned, the Advaita tradition, that there's no separation, that you are what it is. And there's no question about that. You are it already. However, that's a paradox for many people to get to, because you have a Christian confusion. Well, you can't be God, can you? God is somewhere else. Well, you got to be God if there ever was a God, because God created you. So there's no way you can escape whatever God is or did as creator, because you're part of that. When Jesus said, I and the Father are one, he meant as human. And I think that's what it was, that if he's one with it, then we must be one with it as well. And we are one with it because God comes from us. We don't come from God. Let's get it right, kids. We created that. And when we're talking about the Advaita people, the teachings of wisdom, there's no separation, there's no difference. You are whatever it is. You are everything and nothing altogether. You just need to own up to it properly, or to the extreme that's necessary for you to enter a self-realization condition, which means free of suffering, free of self, thought, mind, and other altogether, including world, or whatever else there is. God, too, has to be thrown in the fire. Don't forget, God begs to be thrown in the fire. God, the fire, begs to be thrown in itself. Other question related to that.
And does free will exist as a possibility?
Well, there has to be. There has to be. And then conditionally, there has to be. Free anything exists already. It's already part of the perfect state. And there's free will, and then there's no will. So beyond free will is no will. But that's not negating will or free will or no will, not negating anything. Because a human being is the karma of intelligence, and not just at one level of consciousness, because the issue here is multiple levels of consciousness, where we can say something is concrete at one level and then disappears at another level. And that's the truth of our consciousness, because we're spirit first, right? Zero, right? Or maybe God nature first, yes, paradoxically speaking, but maybe actually so. And people don't want to fess up to that because they think it demands too much of their gross and their beast body, their natural body. And so they're not interested in God, defies or denies them of their grossness and vulgarity. No, God is all of that. Well, it's given you the permission to do that. If you go back to Christian doctrine, or even biblical doctrine, okay, this whole thing is yours to fall or rise yourself in. Right? This paradise. This is paradise. No doubt about it. So you can eat whatever fruit, you got to take what comes with eating the wrong fruit, whatever that is. And that would be that which makes you feel self-conscious, guilty, or self-limited in terms of knowledge. We're talking about self-knowledge as a curse. And God knowledge as the counter, or maybe the gift is God knowledge. Self-knowledge, not quite. Right? Unless we're talking about the self as God, the God self. No problem with the God self.
No knowledge.
No knowledge, right, God self, true knowledge. But it's not the negation, so it can't be no knowledge. It's the no knowledge of all knowledge. It would have to be that, because there's no negative. Sorry, you can use no all day long, and it means yes, straight across the board. And that's to eliminate confusion, just in case you didn't know that. No means yes. Yes means no. Next question along those lines. Kritavi?
Do we
Self-determination. Well, there is self-determination. There is that. That's part of the karmic stream. That's the river of blood. Completely self-determination at the karmic level. Then there's self-liberation, self-realization. And then there is no determination, if it's true in a certain sense. Then there's only what it does. We have to get to the what it does and sacrifice our self that does, the doing self, into that. Sounds very crazy, right? But go back to the lives of the saints if you're a Christian. And see what they underwent, see what their ordeal was in their communing with the Christ consciousness. See what they had to do to get themselves to that level of communion where they weren't doing anything anymore. They were just floating around the monasteries. See, anti-gravitationally speaking, they were levitating. As proof that you can merge with the divine in a sense where the forces of gravity don't exist. Those are extreme cases. Right? But those are true devotees. They experienced the beyond while they were still incarnate. And there were many witnesses to these events. Okay. Miracles. They're called miracles in the Roman Catholic Church. Many miracles have been manifested and demonstrated in the name of the Spirit because it works in strange ways. Okay. We are part of that. Without the Christian, let's say, cloak, and without the Roman Catholic, say, version of it. We are spirits first, going back to native principles that go before time. Spirits first. Zero first in the universe showtime. Nothing. Call it darkness, light, say spirit, call it whatever you want. Isness, maybe. Reality. Always. And then from that, whatever happened, and it's still happening. And we are part of that whatever's happening, and it's still happening. It's going to be continuing beyond our form and our moment in this embodiment, this incarnation. We are part of it. Part of it is speaking through this, and this part of it that speaks through this is part of the immortal. So in time past and time future coming, beings are going to say the same thing about the is of reality, whether they are so-called intergalactic beings or cave dwellers. The isness is what it is in every case, the same. The realization is the realization of the heart. They're all saying the same thing. There's one voice, one heart, one mind. Comment.
So does free will then come from spirit and go through, let's say, our human nature, which either potentiates...
Free will is not equal to spirit, because it has its own will. There's spiritual will. And that's when you have given up yourself, your limitations for that, and then you enter the all good, Samantabhadra, or Badri. You enter the actual all goodness. That's why it's good to have your seed in you, because you already feel all good, because you're not wasting yourself. And there's something about it, in terms of the conductivity of the Kundalini, it's going to be a hard day's night when someone says, give up your seed once you're in the conductivity of that. You're going to say, I must, I have to, why? No! Get out of here! Don't you love me? And so, okay, getting back to our point. Spirit first. Willless. And then incarnation. And will to what? Be more than materialized. Being more than to being gravitized in the case of materialization here on earth. And being subject to the dimensions of time, space, energy, and matter, which are gravitational and anti-gravitational. Electromagnetic. We are that. But we're not that. From the physical body, we are that and more that. As we move to the subtle bodies, we become less that. Maybe more electric. More electronic, in a sense. I don't mean in terms of technology, I mean in terms of nature and element. Because if you become truly electronic, you're not going to want to be limited to technology as such. The brain is the first domain of the universes, the higher universes, your brain, your imagination. See, not the outside world and what everybody else is doing for consumption in the name of progress, which may be digression. digression from the reality of spiritual progression. So it's not in line with that necessarily. Certain practitioners who are materialistic scientists or on the cutting edge of technology may be more in line with this as part of the spiritual process. There may be parallel, but not always necessarily. So, yeah. the spiritual knots, right? The masters, the meditation, and spirit sky wizards are on a completely different track from the people here. Their legacy is plain and simple. Okay? See, light first, light last. Lo and behold, there's only light. See? And that's consistent with the teachings of all the ancient wisdoms and the future wisdoms coming. It's just light. And then beyond light, to no light. And that means clear radiance itself beyond description. See? See? Silence. Thank heavens. Silence. What a beautiful word. And I don't mean the absence of sound, but the realization of sound. See? Radiant sound. See? Soundfulness. Which goes back to the Shab yogis who plug their ears up to hear the sounds and the nadas. The different levels of the nadas. Nadis. Inner sounds. You got to follow that to no sound. Realization.
So, do the masters, in a sense, even need free will, or are they just...
No, they're beyond that. I mean, you can have people who are in a position of authority and masters, but they may just be like everybody else. You know, hustling people, doing business, doing this, doing that, but they have the position of a master. Realization of master means nothing, zero. I mean, there's nothing. That's like a medium. They have awareness and knowledge, yes, but it's heart-based knowledge and awareness. It's not self-based. We're talking heart-based free mastery is what I would speak about and point to in terms of something that is more like safe, where there's disinterest in you as a student or a disciple or any of that. There's disinterest, not this profound interest in you and your resources. There's no interest in the you and your resources. That smells a little bit more like the way the divine works. It doesn't need anything from you. It is what it is. What can you add to it or take from it? It's already done, complete. So we're talking about this kind of proposition, like in the case of maybe Sri Ramana Maharshi or others who really care if you participate or not. They're living a certain awareness. That's pretty safe to participate in. You have your freedom, you have yourself, your reality intact, and it's your garbage. It's not anybody else's garbage. You carry your own garbage. You have to get rid of your own garbage. See? So the issue then is to look in the light of the mirror of these beings so you can see how much garbage you have left to throw off, to get beyond. That's the beauty and majesty of being around certain beings who will make that clear to you in a split second. Because if you can see, then you can see. They're being, but they're not being anybody. They're being beinged. See? They're being there for you, to help you. So they're being you, to help you. And not any more than that. You have to be able to see that. So you need to sense that for your own purposes. And that's where we need to be. Beyond self. Be selfless beings and a much greater service, output to other peeps, just in terms of friendship. Coming.
So then the free will is a byproduct of self?
Well, free will, will is will. Okay? Will is will. It can be inherited. It could be free will, inherited free will, whatever that means to you. See, what does free will mean? Liberated will? It's will something that's liberated? Will what? See? So it's a good question. Now we're talking about divine intelligence could be seen as a form of, and only by the results, not by somebody's declaration. Divine intelligence could be some form of divine will, let's say. By divine will. Okay. But if it's against people, then that diminishes the potency of that. If it's for all people, then we say, well, that's just good. For the benefit of all people, that's the divine we know. See, divine is the all good for everybody. See, without bias, without politics, see, and so on and so forth. See, universal will to be good and to do good for good's sake, let's say, not for self's sake, but for the sake of healing. Maybe we're talking about healing. Go ahead.
So then is doing for all, in a sense...
It's a figure of speech, Kritavi. It's a figure of speech, doing for all. It means doing for no one in particular necessarily, but yet offering yourself to other people freely. And if we look at examples that are in certain monastic traditions, the people are not getting involved in the peeps, right? The monastics are not getting involved, but they're in the service of the peeps. There's a distinction there. Okay? So they have their agenda, they have their programming, they have their work, they have their service, they have their missionary work, and that's to be of service to other peeps in certain ways, but not to be at the mercy of other peeps in other ways. So we're not talking about being at the mercy of, so that even the masters are not at the mercy of other peeps. Absolutely not. So they would appear to be self-determined, but they're really on a different kind of agenda, which is to be heart open to a process, right, of service beyond what other people can perceive of as being valid or legitimate for themselves. So the masters are keeping the masters going, and keeping the masters' teachings going, whatever those might be. And then there are those masters not keeping any teachings going, because there are no teachings for them to keep going at that point. But they're independent, and at the same time they're going to be there for you, like with great intensity as needed, and then take it off. They're not into living your life for you or being involved in your laundry, beyond the point. And these might be what I refer to in a certain kind of symbolic sense as free masters, where they have all the powers of masters, but they're free, they're agents. They come and go like the wind. Maybe like Bodhidharma, in a manner of speaking. But they have the compartmental intelligence, right? It's there, it's intact, but it's free. That means it's a bit crazy in the way that it manifests. And it should be that way, because then we're talking creative. We got to say, hey, let's face it, whatever's crazy in the Dharma means it's creative. Creative can be crazy, and it is. Depends on the level. Yeah.
And so, from the view of ensoundment, is serving all a matter of resonance and increasing resonance?
Well, whoever shows up. All means anybody and everybody who's in the right resonance, right? Who needs to know about the sound, or Judaism as I'm calling it, having heard something, and you see that even in the Buddhist text too, right? You know, you see that, I have heard, right? I have heard. See? So I have heard, thus I have heard, something like that. And so it's really about the hearing. I mean, this is not like that. I mean, I heard as a child, I wasn't sure what I was hearing sound, not words. So I can't say that I heard the words that other people have heard, but I heard sound that guided and directed me. And, hey, however it comes, because all the elements are the Buddha, nature, our true nature. Everything is there, everything is linked and wired depending on your receptivity. It's your receptivity that makes heads or tails of whatever the phenomena is before you and whatever the factors are before you to use, or whatever the wiring is. You can rewire it if you have the wherewithal and the function to do it. And you rewire it. And like Buddhism is not against genius, and genius is different. Because no one's going to tell you what the limits of the mind are. If you're into enlightenment, I mean, the mind is capable of anything. It's miraculous. And people have that potential, regardless of what school they belong to. And celestial beings can come down and tap you. So they tap you and do something, and then you leave you to yourself, and designs, and you change and transform the peeps around you. It could be a native or a caveman even, right? A savage, boom. Right? And then there's light, right? And then the celestial being is amused by it. Saying, just outside of the animal body, and now it has a light. Found something. I'm being, hypothetical one. Yeah, these beings can do these things. Angels can do these things. Peeps, it's happening on a regular basis for some. Yeah. So this is possible, and we know it is. It's going to happen, and it is happening. So then it's up to, let's say, to put it in certain terms, the celestial Buddhists to determine who they awaken the way they want to awaken, in or out of a tradition. Yeah. And if they pick you, I'd be happy. I bow down to you. If it happens in a dog, I'm going to butt out to that dog. I'm all ears. Just like you. Or a frog. Oh, okay. I heard it from there. I hear it from the birds, so it may certainly be in other animals, the creatures. Some people hear it from the horses or dogs. You have to hear it the way you can hear it. Don't just look at a glorified version of it. It's everywhere. We're talking about native. It means in everything. In the leaf. If your mind is open to it, it's in the leaf. Let it talk to you. See if you can hear anything. Because we're here to hear. We're not only hearing outside of us, but we're hearing inside of us. It's the inside hearing that the outside is supposed to turn you to. And the teacher, if there is a teacher, such a thing as that, turns you, puts a mirror on you, turn you into yourself to consider your own mastery.
Can you discuss the phrase, who knows?
Who knows? Yes, it's a question. It is who knows. It's not a question.
Right.
It's a statement. It's who knows. Only who knows. But of course, the paradox then, like in the self-inquiries, what who? Who knows? Which who? Right. The ultimate who knows. The only who knows. Right. The true who. Right. True who knows. Good question. But it's not a question. It's a good recognition of fact. Who knows? And then it becomes who doesn't know. Who don't know. Who don't know and who knows. Who don't know who knows. Who knows who don't know. Come in.